The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Madam President, members. I'm so excited to be here today presenting SB 54, which is the culmination of more than 4 years of work by countless stakeholders of all stripes, from the environmental community to the business community and everywhere in between. I want to just talk a moment about the path this policy has taken since we first introduced SB 54 back in December of 2018. Since then, we've held countless meetings with hundreds of stakeholders here in Sacramento and throughout the state. My staff and I and other legislators and stakeholders took trips to Oregon and Washington and the Canadian provinces to learn about their producer responsibility systems for managing packaging waste. We brought in experts from industry and environmental community to learn lessons from the European Union's 2 decades worth of experience in this space, and we listened to the concerns of many of you and your colleagues that were raised throughout this time. Now, for the past 7 months, we had a group of 25 stakeholders meeting for hundreds of hours. Literally there was a standing negotiation meeting every week, and in so many weeks it was many more days than that helped to develop the bill that is before you today. This group comprised of representatives from industry, including manufacturers, consumer brands, trade associations, recycling service providers. It also included local government representatives, which of course were one of the main motivators for our bill in the first place, and leading environmental advocates working in this space. The goal of the group was to determine if, after 4 years of fighting, we could bring forth a bill together that was flexible enough to address the concerns raised by industry, but strong enough to win the support of the environmental and business groups backing the statewide ballot initiative that, of course, is qualified for the November ballot. And it's because of this work that I can confidently say that the bill before you today represents the most ambitious and well-vetted packaging and plastics extended producer responsibility legislation in the world. We start with the basic EPR premise, extended producer responsibility, that the producers of a material should be responsible for the end-of-life costs to manage that material, not the local communities who pay for waste management and recycling, and who, by the way, are being asked to pay more and more of the burden associated with our waste management crisis. The League of California Cities study just showed that they're looking to raise people's rates upwards of 20% to handle the crisis because of the flood of plastics that they've had to manage. So this bill calls on producers of material covered under the bill, single-use packaging and plastic food serviceware like disposable cups and bowls and cutlery, to form producer responsibility organizations, PRO, to organize and fund industry's efforts to comply with the measure. The PRO must develop a plan that's reviewed by a newly created advisory board made up of diverse interests, and then send that plan to CalRecycle. CalRecycle has the authority to approve the plan. They can insist upon changes if the plan is not designed to meet the requirements of the bill. This bill goes beyond the standard requirement of other packaging EPR programs that simply cover costs. This bill includes ambitious environmental mandates that will ensure that California is at the forefront of tackling the packaging and plastic waste challenges that we have. It requires all covered material to be recyclable or compostable within 10 years. We include specific rates and dates for plastic material to ensure the development of robust end markets. This version of the bill also requires producers to reduce the amount of plastic-covered material that's coming onto the market by 25% within a decade, helping to address our city's enormous challenges with regards to waste. It also provides clear guidance and certainty to the producers and to the producer responsibility organizations on how to achieve this, while still, and this is very important, while still allowing for flexibility to enable businesses in California to grow responsibly, to give businesses a role at the table in helping to devise the plan. SB 54 also creates the California Plastic Pollution Mitigation Fund, dedicate $500 million a year for 10 years, paid by plastic producers and manufacturers to fund the monitoring and mitigation of plastic pollution, primarily in disadvantaged, low-income, and rural communities. Members, this has been a long, long effort, and I do want to just take a moment to thank a couple people who've been involved with this effort. There have been 4 particular women Senate staffers, members of our Senate family, who I just want to take a moment to highlight. First of all, Senator Skinner's very capable staffer, Katarina Robinson. Senator Skinner and I were involved with this effort a long time ago with Assemblymember Gonzalez, with SB 54 and AB 1080. Folks may know this, but Senator Skinner has been a very important leader in this space for a long time. And Katarina and Laurel and Tina just were the three amigas working so hard on the previous version of this bill that created the framework from which we were able to launch this new bill. And I want to recognize her. I want to recognize Genevieve Wong, the lead staffer on the Environmental Quality Committee in our Senate family, who has been just helping us every step of the way think through a number of the issues that we've been facing. I want to recognize Christine Are, who is on Senator Hertzberg's staff, who came through at the last couple of weeks helping us to bird dog everything. She's an incredible tactician, very, very smart person, and a real credit to the Senate family. And then, of course, my own staffer, Tina Andolina, who jockeyed this bill every step of the way, literally for years, just threading needles. She understood the issues and concerns of everybody in the mix, from the producers and haulers to local government, retailers, distributors, environmental community, of course, the very serious and real concerns of the environmental justice community, local governments, and just threaded needle after needle to get to a place where we have everybody on board. And it's an extraordinary achievement, and so much of it is owed to her and the team of largely women staffers and advocates who helped to bring us here today. Members, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to show the world in this moment of deep polarization in our country that we've been able to bring together business and environmental leadership to solve a major problem. Yesterday's vote in the State Assembly, we had 66 votes, strong bipartisan support, folks from all across the political spectrum who came together to vote for this bill. This is what our voters are asking us for. They say, get these ballot measures off the ballot if you can get them fixed yourself in the legislature. This was an example of the legislature doing its work, coming together, forging a meaningful, strong compromise that will put California at the forefront of addressing a major global problem. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Senator Hertzberg.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I want to join Senator from Santa Monica and emphasize some of the points that he made, because I think it's important in terms of the nature of this work. And I want to start as someone who comes from the generation of the Academy Award movie, The Graduate. And that famous scene in The Graduate where the father-in-law figure goes to Dustin Hoffman and says, I just want to say one word to you. Just one word. Are you listening? Plastics. That informed a generation of what the thoughts of what the future looked like. Today, I ask California and the world, are you listening? Because today we have the opportunity to pass the boldest, most comprehensive and well-vetted plastics reduction policy in the nation, if not the world, as was suggested by some of the environmental advocates in the press documents they talked about. This is the biggest bill of the year. The complexities of the issues, as was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, the great environmental concerns which we are faced with and the embedded interests of industry made the path extremely difficult to navigate. There has been deep involvement and engagement with assembly members, senators, various stakeholders, as was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, and not just for the last few weeks, but as he suggested, for the last number of years, because these kinds of issues don't happen overnight. They don't happen where you sit down and say, I want to just put it together. It requires extraordinary collaboration among all of the parties. The author, as he suggested, but I want to embellish on, has worked tirelessly. He and his staff, as he suggested, accurately have held countless meetings here in Sacramento, throughout the state, and in other countries. They brought in experts from both the environmental community and industry to learn lessons from other nations of how to craft the strongest measure possible. This, unlike any other legislation, members, I don't know of any other bill that has had this much attention, comma by comma, haggling over word by word. And this measure reflects the tireless efforts and collective actions, as I suggested, of the environmental community, the environmental justice community, and various other stakeholders. It also reflects hours and hours of engagement between members of this House and the Assembly under the leadership of Assemblywoman Luz Rivas, the Chair of Natural Resources. who put her heart into this, and her staff, Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary day for California, members, solidifying our role as leader in the environmental policy and fights against plastic pollution. I remember the days when Jerry Brown created the Energy Commission, and they came up with standards for refrigerators, and everybody says, oh, it's impossible to meet. And all of a sudden, it becomes a national standard, and everybody makes refrigerators based upon their energy consumption. I remember when Fran Pavley stood on the floor of the other house and talked about tailpipe emissions, and everybody said that was impossible. And guess what? The nation adopted her standards on tailpipe emissions. I believe that what you're seeing here today is a result of the senator and the entire team from Santa Monica's effort, that you're going to see us leading the nation, that other jurisdictions are going to be adopting these kinds of standards which are critically important. This measure, it was suggested by the senator from Santa Monica, will fundamentally decrease the dependence on single-use plastics, and the ripple effect, as I suggested, will be all across the country and even the world. Like the senator from Santa Monica, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank some of the folks. In addition to the senator, Tina Angelina, rock star, midnights, crazy, that's her calling me. Just unbelievable. The various stakeholders, Ben Gollenbeck, Adam Wrigley, worked his heart out. Kid I've known his whole life. Other members of the industry, the governor's team, this wouldn't happen without Christy Boma, who understood how hard it is to put these kinds of transactions together and to persuade her office, Ana Mana Santos, Melissa Emmel. Unbelievable amount of time. They were dedicated. They worked with all of the various stakeholders. And I just think it's important. We don't often mention individuals' names on this floor, but it's critically important because without them, without their extraordinary leadership and their around-the-clock, midnight, Saturday night, Sunday night, Christine Ari, Saturday, Sunday, 6 in the morning, midnight, incredible. The great Kipster, Senator number 41, he was an important guy. Nick Hardiman, critically important to make all of this happen from the pro tem staff. It wouldn't have happened. And of course, Elizabeth, Assemblymember Luce Rivas. I also want to add Jennifer Fearing, who was just unbelievable, and all of the fearless advocacy informed by her and the larger team of folks that were part of this. And as I close, I want to talk about what I started about in opening about plastics, because then was the future. The message of that in that scene in The Graduate was, that's the wave of the future. And what we learned is that we made a mistake. What we learned is that we need to course correct. What we need to do is we're ruining the planet, and we've got to change it. And so there has been this whole political industrial complex built around an industry that is killing us. And this is a gigantic step forward to right that course, to change our view, to course correct. This is as good as it gets, members. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Dodd.
Thank you, Madam President, members. I want to take this opportunity to thank the good senator from Santa Monica, and the entire team is listed as authors, the leadership, and all the stakeholders that were involved. I've had the opportunity to be with the author and other authors on this bill to other countries and other states to look at recycling policies and other issues relative to this whole thing. And it's just absolutely amazing how far they've gone in such a short period of time. I was on this bill 3 years ago. I thought it was a good bill then. But from what I heard today, I'm just so impressed with all the stakeholders and everybody coming together. I also want to make one final point that we've all been busy for about the last 4 or 5 weeks since the end of the Senate policy bills, committee meetings, running back and forth. Can you imagine all these authors getting together every single day on top of what we all had to get this deal done? I just want to congratulate them on a job well done. I ask for your support of SB 54.
Senator Wessel.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I just wanted to add a little bit of a different perspective to this. You know, I still remember growing up when we used to get our milk delivered in recyclable glass containers, where it was very rare to see plastics in our grocery items and just everything around our life. And I've seen the world change in that period. I'm an avid kayaker, and I like to go out to the ocean. I've also seen the ocean change in the years that I've been recreating in the ocean. It used to be rare to see a mammal, a dolphin, or a seal, or a sea lion, or a turtle wrapped in plastics or in netting. It used to be very rare. Now it's pretty commonplace. And as I've gone out to the ocean, you see the devastating impacts of plastics on marine life. Many of you know that I've advocated for the Tijuana River Valley and the new river in my district and the Salton Sea. The biggest problems facing those water bodies are plastics, the introduction of plastics and petroleum-based products. We used to have, Tijuana River Valley used to be a pretty nice river with a salmon cannery. Those salmon that used to make the runs on the Tijuana River Valley are now extinct. What we have instead are huge deposits of plastics. And as I see how the world has changed, I'm just sad that we can't offer the same world to our very own children, that they're able to go and see the ocean as it was one day, the rivers as they were one day. And so this bill is an enormous bill. We've been working for years on plastics recycling. We've always failed on a large omnibus recycling bill, and we finally have one here. So we have a lot of people in the Senate and the legislature and staff to thank, and I echo the thanks that my colleagues have offered to everyone involved, but also urge the Senate. You know, all the problems that this has caused, as I've come for funding, those funding requests have not been met. The amount of money that we need to restore the environment has not been proffered. So, and that may never be available. What we can do, though, if we can't afford the cleanup, what we can do is curb the additional waste, curb more plastics being introduced into the environment. We've got to do something, and I want to thank everybody for putting forth this important measure. This is a truly historic day. This has been a truly historic week, and I thank all the work of the senators that have gotten us today. I urge and I vote.
Senator Wachowski.
Mrs. Robinson? No, that's another graduate joke. This is a critical junction that we're at. You know, we've talked about EPR bills. We talk about the profound effect of a state of California saying that we're going to reduce our dependency on single-use plastics. It's such a simple idea, but we're at a juncture where we either continue to do nothing, allow plastics to pollute the ocean, pollute our bodies, pollute our lands, or we come up with a real solution. And my applauds to all the people in this ecosystem. There's a lot of EPR bills that haven't made it, and a lot of EPR. This is an EPR bill that's going to make it. I want to take a moment to applaud this body and the legislature in the apparatus that we have set up, where we take these initiatives that have qualified and we really allow members of the Senate and members of the Assembly to do our work, to sit down and crunch the numbers with folks and see if we can reach a long-lasting compromise. And we've done it. It's not a small thing. The space is important also, but the apparatus that we've chosen to take these initiatives and sit down, as my colleague from San Fernando Valley said, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, to pound out a compromise that's going to be fruitful, as we can see by the fact that we're here on the floor voting for this, and really have a long-lasting effect. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that this is going to send a message not only to the members of our community in California, but throughout the United States of America, about finally doing something to have the producers have buy-in on reducing the use of single plastics. And I applaud the author from Santa Monica and all the other people who have worked so hard to make this happen. And I urge and I vote.
Senator Glazer.
We've got the families are here today, which is so nice. Madam President and members, we face a lot of issues on this floor that are problems. It's a part of our world, a part of our jobs, to try to figure out how to solve them. And certainly Plastics is the latest. But we know that when we encounter a problem, that the challenge is always, how do we make a change? Whether that's consumer attitude, whether that's the jobs that the existing folks involved in that existing problem are involved in, and how we transition those folks. There's a lot of real challenging pieces that make a problem-solving solution work. When SB 54 came to our floor over a year ago, I voted to support it, not because I thought the bill was perfect at the time, but because I had trusted confidence in the author, the senator from Santa Monica, to be thoughtful in trying to carve and craft a solution that would move us forward in dealing with the problem of plastics. And I think all of our confidence in him were rewarded in the bill that's before you today. I want to join in thanking the senator from the San Fernando Valley, the many staff members who worked tirelessly on this, certainly the senator from Santa Monica for his leadership. There are a lot of times when we can't solve problems, and what do? They're kicked to the ballot for the voters to decide in a black and white circumstance where they don't know all the nuances and our ability to make adjustments as circumstances change. And that's never really the best solution for problem solving. We know that. And so I think the actions today not only are thoughtful and far-reaching, but they also avoid that rigidity that happens when the voters say yes or no, and somehow that's the final solution going forward in that policy area. So I applaud the author, I applaud the Senate. SB 54 is worthy of support today. Not going to be perfect for everyone, but it has all the elements of progressive problem solving that's a testament to the Senate and to the leadership of the author.
Senator Skinner.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, is this bill the most important bill of the year? No, but it is essential. And I hope that we are not too late in addressing this scourge of plastics. All of us, all human life is dependent on the health of our oceans and waterways, on the health of our atmosphere and the air we breathe, on the health of the land. Plastics are polluting all of the three of those, and to a level that is incomprehensible. Yesterday we talked about how we have to act in a way to potentially continue some use of fossil fuels because our extreme use of fossil fuels has caused us to be in the climate crisis right now, and we don't want people to die if this year or next year we have such high heat days that put such a demand on our electricity grid that our air conditioning would fall out and thus people would die. Why are we facing that? Because we have not acted appropriately, and I say we, the collective human we, because we have known about the crisis of the climate for decades. We have also known about the crisis of plastics for decades. I hope we are not too late. No, this is not the most important bill of this year, but it is essential, and I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Roth.
Thank you, Madam President. Once I figure out my microphone, I'm not going to speak to the bill, but I thought I'd take a moment. I don't know that I've ever done this in 10 years to talk a little bit about the author. You know, we come here from different directions, and people approach us about carrying bills, and sometimes we pay attention to them, and sometimes we don't pay a lot of attention to them, even when we agree to carry the bills. But I think this is a perfect example of how to be a legislator in California. A perfect example of how to grapple with complex issues. An example of how to handle difficult and thorny obstacles, and occasionally how to handle difficult people, and how to stay focused on the goal and the objective, and despite being bumped around year after year, as this particular author was on this particular subject, to stay the course. And the end result is to produce something that sometimes we don't see around here, something of enduring value. And I think the author is to be commended. I've been extraordinarily impressed with his intuition on this particular issue, and frankly with his smarts. And he's to be commended, and I've been very, very impressed. So kudos to the senator from Santa Monica.
Members, is there any further discussion or debate? Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator Allen, you may conclude.
Well, thank you so much, members, for the wonderful comments. I love the fact that there's a baby here. I kissed my baby this morning when I came here to work, and I think about the sort of legacy we're leaving to the next generation, all the great challenges we have, structural, environmental, and this is one that we really have to fix. And I hope that with this bill today, we're taking a big step in solving a major and helping the globe solve a major environmental problem that will make the world a little bit better for that young person up there in the gallery and for all of our children and grandchildren. Members, we've been thanking a lot of people. I do want to take a moment to thank the Pro Tem and her staff for helping us to get here. This has been such a wild process, and having the help of the leadership get us to this moment, especially at critical moments when the bill was in trouble, was so valuable, and I want to thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I want to thank the other co-authors. I mean, it was so fantastic on the Assembly floor having Blanca Rubio and Luz Rivas getting up to speak on behalf of the bill, but also Assemblymember Patterson and Laura Friedman. I mean, it was such an interesting mix of people who got up to speak on the Assembly floor. Here in the Senate, we had folks working on this for so long. Our joint authors and co-authors, Senator Stern, Senator Wiener, Senator Kamlager, who did a really important bill in this space, Senator Becker, Senators Skinner and Hertzberg, who've been working so hard. Of course, Lena Gonzalez as well, who unfortunately is not here today. But I just want to thank all of you and everybody else who've been working so hard to help us get here. This is the product of a painstaking compromise. This is that brought together so many different stakeholders. There's still so much work to be done here as we try to address this major environmental challenge. But I appreciate the members for getting up and recognizing how much work it was, for recognizing our staff, and just the incredible work of the advocates on both sides who helped to get us here. Give us this opportunity, members, to help solve a major problem, but do it together. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Bates. Becker. Aye. Borges. Bradford. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Grove. Hertzberg. Aye. Wesso. Aye. Hurtado. Jones. Kamlager. Aye. Laird. Leyva. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Melendez. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Nielsen. Ochoa Bogue. Pan. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk.
Please call the absent members.
Bates. Borges. Bradford. Aye. Daly. Gonzalez. Grove. Hurtado. Jones. Aye. Laird. Melendez. Nielsen. Ochoa Bogue. Wilk.
Ayes 29, no 0. The amendments are concurred in. Members, we don't usually